Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. I'm here with Mark Fulford in the farm in Monroe, where I've just seen to my bees in between showers and things. But it was quite pleasant. The bees were pretty happy. They're finding stuff here. And Mark, to tell us a little bit of the sort of things that they are finding in this area, because Mark's got a big range of things and a big knowledge of the plants, which is a big gap in my knowledge of beekeeping. So take it away, Mark.
Okay. Well, Peter, one thing I've really noticed over the years is we have the dregs of an old-fashioned nursery business here. And we had unusual plants outside of the ordinary. And many people are keeping nectar-bearing trees for beekeeping, as familiar as the black locust. I don't know how well they do with honey locust. But I do know here in this front of us here, we have a tree that's just coming into bloom called the Macchia amorensis, native of southeast Siberia. And it looks like a series of small lupin type flowers. It's just coming into bloom now. There's a primary central stalk that begins to break out and flower, and then it's got these little side stalks that are delayed, so it actually gives you 4 to 5 weeks of heavy nectar production.
Nice. That's what we could do with in the middle of summer here.
Yeah, it's a legume. Fixes its own nitrogen.
Wow.
It's a very high protein.
I didn't know we had trees that did that.
Yeah, many.
Great, right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
The locusts, well, it's particularly black locust. And
right.
Even the alder fixes nitrogen, but it's in the betula family of birch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, farther through the foliage there, the black cohosh is just beginning, which is a perennial. It's right beside the macchia tree.
Okay.
And that's another plant that the bees abandon all other flowers in favor of when it comes. So the black cohosh buds are just beating up. This is a very long-lived perennial and a medicinal plant. And there's a big patch here and an even bigger patch down below. And there's sometimes 15 to 20 bees on a spike.
Oh, nice.
They're
nice.
very, very interested in this plant. And there's macchias all through the old nursery site.
Now, these are pretty shaded, this area. Are they a shade-loving plant?
Yeah, the black locust.
Right.
Cohosh is a shade-loving plant or an edge effect plant.
Right.
And there was one other thing we noticed particularly well the last few years was we grow a lot of kiwi vine. It's not the kiwi you buy in the supermarket, which is a large, hairy, or fuzzy thing. It's actually a small, clear green fruit that has about roughly 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C per berry.
Wow.
You eat too many and you hide behind the bushes. But it's when it blooms, the same thing. You can hear the kiwi due to the sound of the bees in the vine from a long way off. There's that many bees in it.
Nice, yeah.
And it smells very good.
Like plants like that.
And that's a shorter bloom season, but there's several kiwi species. But the Arctic or the Siberian kiwi does really, really well here. And if we walk just down this path, you'll see a jungle of kiwi.
If you've got the time, I've got the camera.
Okay, no.
Yes, I'll have to ask you if we can get some of the seeds of this plant as well.
Oh, yes.
Scatter around.
To getting the cohosh to start.
Uh-huh.
In through the orchard is sort of a mix-mash of everything with the duck in between fruits, laying pretty heavy. This will be an interesting
Glad to see the bees were busy this spring.
Yeah. This is a jungle, a temperate climate jungle. And the kiwi, unfortunately, is an aggressive vine. Everything you see in front of you here is Arguta kiwi.
Hmm.
There's about a 1/4 acre of it. Goes all the way to the tops of the trees in the back.
Yeah.
And we sell quite a bit of fruit. But what we're most interested in with the kiwi is the fact that the bees adore it. And we get about a 2 to 4 week bloom time of the different varieties. But this is the Arguta, Actinidia arguta species, also native of the Siberian and northern China region.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, you'll have 2 or 3 year old vines with fruit spurs on them, and you'll see 50 or 60 clumps of small kiwi fruit like grapes. Might be singles, doubles, or even up to 5 or 6 in a clump. But it definitely is a bee plant, serious nectar producer.
Right.
You can feel it, it's sticky when it's in bloom.
Right.
So they're
And
getting sugar.
when does that bloom?
It just went by a little while ago, so I would say last 2 weeks of June, first week of July.
Right.
And some years it's a week, give or take, either way. Impressive bee plant.
Right.
And there's others that I suggest beekeepers seed.
Definitely.
And we even have
please tell us.
up in the other garden, we have 2 perennial or biennial plants we can take a look at because they're in bloom now.
Great.
There's the Greek mullein, and the other one that's coming on is the sainfoin.
Right.
So we can take a look and get a picture of them as they're in bloom so people
Excellent.
recognize them.
Excellent.
We don't quite know if some of these bees have ever experienced either the mullein or the sainfoin before, because I guess the new colonies are coming from different places.
Of mine, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, they're being made up from scratch, so
Okay.
they don't have a history in terms of
Yeah.
like the queens are Saskatchewan's queens I've got here,
Mm-hmm.
and they're being brought up in California.
Okay.
Well, say they were born there, and a few weeks after being born, they're shipped here.
Right. So they have a whole new panorama of plants to get used
That's
to.
right. They're bred for Canadian Canadian beekeepers, so
Oh, yes.
that's why I started with them.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if they've ever experienced it.
Out here in the middle of the garden, we have the 2 that I'm talking about. You can hear them now. They're out.
Yeah.
Those are out. This is sainfoin. This is a perennial legume. Has a very long bloom cycle, sometimes 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in about the time that the Dutch white clover or the native wild clovers come in, the white ones. And they just started to find it last sunny day we had.
Right.
Down below is very delayed. It's a bad field down there. But you can imagine in the western states where people actually grow thousands of acres of this as forage for cattle. And the cattle love it. They have no problems with it. But they're wading through these fields as the sainfoin comes into bloom, and there's clouds of bees sweeping out ahead of them. So we have a lot of high hopes for this. It's just a new one for us.
Great.
There's very few people. I've never heard of anyone in Maine growing it before.
No.
But it's rates right at the very top of the honey yield per acre. But it's unheard of here.
Right.
And I think once the bees find it, and hopefully next year I'll have a serious field of it in bloom.
Very nice.
It likes dry soil, is what it prefers, and it likes some calcium in our eastern acidic soils.
Right.
It doesn't require very fertile soils. It doesn't want manure, compost, or anything like that. Would rather grow in a gravel pit.
Right.
And then this, they have finally found this morning.
Yeah, I see a few of those popping up in my back field.
Yeah. So there's the native one that's just a single stalk, or a very
Right.
simple stalk, and then the Greek mullein has this huge candelabra of
What's this called?
Greek mullein.
Greek mullein.
Yeah, there's a native mullein and then a Greek mullein. And the Greek mullein is nice because they're just beginning now. By the time they finish out the top, it'll be another 4 or 5 weeks.
Nice.
I don't think it's so much a nectar producer, but I think they need something in it.
Right.
A lot.
Yeah, I think I saw balls of pollen on the bees' legs there, but I have to recheck the video. We've scared them off.
When the sun, they're all over the place. We've got mullein plants scattered here as volunteers everywhere, and
Right. Oh, they like the poppies over there. Look at that.
They love poppies. Yeah, they must get pretty drunk on them because yeah. Poppies,
Yeah, it's often you
mulleins.
see half a dozen bees in the same flower on the poppies.
Yeah, and they're frantic.
Yeah. What kind of poppy is that?
That's the old breadseed poppy or elka poppy.
Right.
They seem to like any poppy. It has that big bulbous head at the end that people use as a seed rattler, but it has a black, grayish blue seed.
Right.
And there's some more things that would come to mind if we keep rattling along here, but this is interesting. There'll probably be 30 or 40 of these in bloom, and I would. The seed is like dust. It's really tiny.
Really?
Really, really tiny.
And is it the sort of thing that you can buy the seeds for?
It's hard to find the Greek mullein seed.
Right.
But we've been thinking how nice it would be as these bloom to shake them at the end of the season. Cut the heads and store them upside down in the bag so we can get, who knows, a plant like this would be 500,000 seeds. There's just so much seed in it.
Yeah.
And the gardens are littered with baby mullein seeds in the spring, or plants. But it doesn't like to be moved. It's a biennial. Grows the first year as a crown, second year as a big spike.
Right, and so for instance, the seed of this year, do they sprout this year and then bloom next year?
The seed will stay dormant on the soil surface.
And then bloom
and
sprout for the
in the
first
spring.
time next year.
So this is a 2-year-old plant.
Right.
And the other thing we notice they do like a lot is grape flowers.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, I can see them on the grate over there.
Yeah, and there's another big mullein behind there. They don't seem to do a whole lot with the delphinium, but they're in there along with the bumblebees.
Yeah, this looks like a deeper flower that the bumblebees can get in, but the
Right.
honeybees with their short tongues might struggle with them.
Earlier on in our conversation, we mentioned Korean mountain ash.
Mm-hmm.
And the American mountain ash, the European, and the Korean mountain ash all seem to be bee havens. And we have 2 or 3 Korean mountain ashes left of an earlier planting. They grow very fast, they fruit very quickly, and there again, you can hear the mountain ash when it's in bloom because there's so many bees in it.
Right, yeah.
And that's early.
Yeah. And it's quite it's decorative with
Very
the berries and
decorative.
that sort of thing as well.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
an ornamental.
Yeah, we're thinking about what trees I want to put in our front yard and get some color through the year, and then give the bees
there may be
something
like
early in the spring.
a grand list, a master list of fruit and flowering trees that where we can sort of gather a seed library to have.
That would be very, very nice thing to have.
Yeah, be like perennial herbal plants that do the thing for the bees and the trees.
Right.
Yeah.
And where to get hold of them.
Yes. I know with the machia, it's a hard-coated legume seed, looks like a miniature brown bean.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get them to sprout, sometimes we'll gather up the dry seed pods and just rub all the seed out of it and blow the chaff away.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the spring, we'll pour a tea kettle of boiling water over the seed to break their dormancy.
Really? Wow.
And all of a sudden they
who'd
pop
have
to
thought
life.
boiling water would do that?
I don't know. The nursery trades have a lot of tricks.
They do.
And with the black cohosh, those tall, spiky plants, we wait until most of the seed capsules are brown, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we clip them off and turn them upside down inside of a feed bag and put them in a hot, dry place. And then the capsules all burst open and drop the seed. And you try to get the seed into the ground in September, into a seed bed, and then you get close to 90% germination.
Right.
But if you just throw dry seed out there in the spring, it doesn't work so good.
Right.
But that condition is they want to be heading into the winter as the temperature is dropping, and that cold treatment of dropping temperatures and being collected before they're overripe seems to give us a really high germination rate.
Nice.
And I don't know how much nectar they make with that, but I know that they demand an input of all different kinds of flowers to keep their health.
That's right,
health.
right.
Yeah.
Different flowers. I mean, nectar is one thing, but pollen is equally important in terms of producing the brood. Etc.
Yeah. One of the first trees they really hit up hard is the balsam poplar for the propolis.
Mm-hmm.
The propolis on the buds is so sticky that you break a bud off, it sticks to your fingers, you can't shake it off. But they hit that up, and that's usually end of April.
Right.
If they're out flying, they'll find it.
Yeah.
And gosh, we could go on forever.
Yep, and then that'll probably have some good antibiotic properties for them as well. I mean,
I think
mopping
so.
up problems in the spring and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
if that's
we use
one of the things they're doing.
The balsam poplar buds to stop a sore throat in its tracks.
Yeah.
So it's antibiotic. Well, I don't know how that really translates to a bee, but
We beekeepers are interested in everything now.
yeah.
Once you start beekeeping, all of a sudden you have to start taking interest in botany and the rest of the whole how
It's not
everything
an
interplays
isolated
together.
thing.
That's
Not an
right.
isolated thing. Some years the bees have found the Chinese tree lilac to be very attractive, but that's going by now. It's mostly turned brown. It's got this big white clumps.
Mm-hmm. And some years they're interested in it, some not.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
depends on what the hive's learning record is, or something like that. I don't know what.
I think also there's some years some of these plants they're in bloom but they're not producing any nectar.
Yeah.
Or there's something producing a lot more nectar that
Yeah, they're very heat sensitive.
all right.
How much sugar a flower produces,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yep, or a cold shock. Like
Yeah.
that early June week of 40, 50 degree days and
Right. And of course, in our
but
there's
the
a
honeybees
honeybee.
are on it.
It's late, but it's finding it.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is a noisy tree.
Right.
Not every year.
Yeah. Yes, like the black locust. Harold Swan, great local beekeeper, used to tell me that this hasn't produced nectar for years, but then some year it'll go, and you can hear the bees for hundreds of yards from them.
And that's the off and on behavior of some of these plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned last year, often it's the nutrition of the plant itself.
Yeah. That's a big conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly reads true that high bricks or high sugar content in the leaf and the flower is very dependent on fertility in the soil and how it's released.
Looks like I'm going to be blocking traffic over there, so maybe I should move my truck.
No, I don't think so. You're the only person who gets in and out.
Okay, good. Hey, Paula.
Videoing, Mark.
We're talking nectar producing trees. We're admiring the gardens.
Did you show him the mullein?
Yes. Yeah.
Mullein, the cohos, the macchia, all that stuff. Like you
And
say,
the clover?
clovers
On the ground.
coming all the time.
Yeah.
We do mow a fair bit because of the tick pressure.
Right.
The clover is nice because it bounces right back.
Finally, the ticks seem to have eased off a little bit.
Oh,
I mean, it's been 20 ticks per yard I go to. I'd be taking off me at the moment,
Yeah.
but seem to have slowed down a little bit this last week.
Yeah. That's great. And if people, an early blast of bee was, of course, all the roses, the Rosa rugosa,
Yeah.
and this has gone by, but you can still see.
They're still sniffing around it.
Yeah, but you can see a few late flowers.
Yeah.
Rosa rugosa is actually a native of China, not the U.S., but it naturalized here at the turn of the century.
Right. Now,
They
is this the
work-
one that you see on sea coasts
Yeah,
everywhere?
it's all over the coast.
Yeah.
It loves salt.
Yeah.
There we go. You're even looking for something and there's no flower. So they have an identity with this plant.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard when everything's just green to actually get a close-up of the species, or ID the species. The Robrophilia rose is
the
packed
tall
with
one here?
bees. They had a lot. And it's actually a gall wasp
All right.
nest. But this one had a tremendous amount of honeybee activity. And there is a Korean mountain ash sort of in the woods over here. The leaf looks more like a birch leaf.
Oh, right. Yes, it doesn't look like a mountain ash at all.
No, it's distant relative that way. More,
Right.
It seems more like a birch in structure, but it's a creamy white flower, and it gets a lot of attention. for just a brief while.
Right.
But if you had like a dozen or two of these and all these trees we're talking about around,
Yeah.
I just noticed the bees. I just noticed the bees are finally in the cucumbers in the hoop house.
they're finding them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting out and about, even
Yeah.
though the weather's been miserable for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Been miserable for beekeepers too.
Yes,
And
indeed.
farmers, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, so many of them depend on pollinating.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
At least we're not getting the wind we had in the spring, but
yeah.
actually when it's as humid as this, I really wish we would have some wind.
Yes. Yeah, there's some days when it's almost oppressive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, well, I'll play around with that list a little bit.
I'd appreciate it.
email
I'd
you
love to have,
yeah.
have access to that. That'd be great.
Yeah, and a little bit of a description of how you would save or propagate.
Right.
Yeah.
And also help me with the spelling, and I'm trying to put some captions on here.
Yes.
That'll help with
Okay.
that.
Yeah, all right.
So if you can, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll give you the botanical name
Right.
and a little bit of cultural information about
Wonderful.
it. Yeah.
If
Okay.
you ever wanted to have a class here, I bet Mark would jump in.
Yeah, we could do a in-person bee class here if that's something
That would be-
makes any sense for
Mark
you.
loves to teach.
That would be,
That's what he does.
that'd be terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah. Very good.
I'm
Thank you.
always good at advertising.
Yeah,
He's always
good,
selling
good for volunteering Mark to do.
But he likes to do it, so.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to my winter port yard now and
Okay.
put the last of those supers on the hives, I hope.
How were other bee yards doing?
It varied this year because of the slowness of the spring.
Yeah.
I've had all my hives have been down to very small hives until quite late
Yeah.
because I make most of my living splitting hives and selling bees.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've missed the boat on much of the opportunities this year so far, which I do every year, but this year more than most. But I'm trying to bulk up my supplies to come through the winter with more bees in situ and bigger. And so even if I lose a few, I can get on with it. But so something like in Hamden, the bees have been producing nectar,
Yeah.
but I've got a lot of bees there.
Right.
Bangor, they're producing nectar. Brewer, not so much. Here, they're doing well, but the hives are small.
Yeah.
And then Winterport usually is pretty consistent.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I'll find that out in half an hour.
Yeah. Well, if we decide to give me a heads up ahead of time if we do something with a few people, but we can also walk out into the meadow there and people can get an identity on the differences of,
Right.
of, say,
What would be a good time of year to do that?
August.
August.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
That'd be really
But
good.
then they can also see the fruits or the finished stages of some of these other flowering trees, and then you'll of course be able to see the many different asters and the fact that there's one particular goldenrod that's a great plant for bees,
Right.
as opposed to some of the other ones.
Yeah, the early ones are a little bit. Occasionally they're benefit, but the later ones they're really
Yeah,
good.
and there's that crown or flat top one, the mountain goldenrod. That's
Yeah.
the one that really you can smell how rich it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as soon as you go near the hives, you can smell it from 100
Yeah,
yards
that
away.
one's got a great
curing,
perfume.
the dirty
Yeah.
sock smell of curing goldenrod
Yeah,
honey.
right.
Well, again, we've got more rain coming now, so
know. Tomorrow might be our one day that we get some sun.
yeah, only it's gonna be 90 at the same time.
Miserable.
Oh well,
if you're in
thank
a
you.
bee suit.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark. Well, thank you very much
you,
for that.
Peter.
I
It's
really
always good
appreciate
to
it.
see you. Yeah.
Likewise. And I hope you enjoyed that. I might break this into a couple of videos and a couple of parts to include some of the stuff that Mark might provide for us, and watch the space for the possibility of a class here in Monroe at Stovepipe Alley. And is there a name for this farm?
It's just Mark and Paula Fulford's
Right.
farm.
Mark and Paula Fulford's farm.
Yeah.
I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time. Thank you very much.